weeks later, I didn't do any interviews until I went on Danielle Smith, who's a local talk radio host with Chorus Entertainment. And before I even went on her show, a journalist with the Star took to Twitter, and she saw that I was going to be on the show. Now remember, I haven't done any interviews at this point. No one has heard my side of the story. It's been national news, but no one's heard from me. And she takes to Twitter and she says, "What in the fresh hell are we doing giving a platform to an unrepentant white supremacist?" And then she says, any journalist in any newsroom who thinks there could be another side to the story, show yourselves, she says. You are problematic too. This is a journalist for the Star, now for the National Enquirer. Is that what it's called? Am I getting the National Observer? The National Name is the National Observer. Close enough. So I went on Danielle Smith's show and I did an interview. I think it was pretty sympathetic and largely exculpating. So the NDP then mobilized their third-party advertiser, Progress Alberta, and launched a petition to drive Danielle Smith off the air for having the temerity to interview me. They said she had platformed a white supremacist, and so there must be consequences. And if she doesn't apologize or be fired, then they will target their advertisers. Now, I have heard, I have not confirmed, I've tried to confirm this with the mayor's office. The mayor's office does not want to comment. That Mayor Nenshi had a private meeting with journalists and news editors in which he told them that Danielle Smith should have been fired for interviewing me. Now, I think that that's evidence of the mayor trying to intimidate journalists away from looking into the stories.
That's horrible. That's like John Tory, the mayor of Toronto, trying to intimidate the library for...
Good evening, YouTube. So, if you're a subscriber to Rebel News, you've probably seen this clip. Kaylin Ford speaks out. Former UCP reveals why she was cancelled. Kaylin Ford is besides the point, but in a way she's very trivial to this point. See, I love rumors. I love it when somebody says, I heard that Nenshi was talking to the reporters, or pardon me, to the media, and asking them to remove Danielle Smith. And see, to me, what Nenshi is trying to do is eliminate anybody. Well, I shouldn't say eliminate. Eliminate's not the right word, but I suppose it is. Let's say remove opponents from his path. This mayor is infamous for getting into fights with all kinds of women. Take one of my favorites from the Conservative Party, Michelle Rempel from Nose Hill. He's had many attacks on her. The problem is, in our time, an attack can be subtle, yet prevalent, very, very forward. The mayor, for example, saying to Michelle Rempel that she cannot add, I would say is an indicative of arrogance, trying to put down her character. And then with Danielle Smith, I was actually surprised to hear Kaylin saying that, because there is a picture of Nenshi on the clip, if you've seen it. And so, to me, the essence of this clip was actually that Danielle Smith would actually get fired and that the mayor was pressuring for that outcome. That's what I understand from this clip. Later, Keenan Bexley will say the same thing. So, this is more like a video addressed to any Calgarians that would be watching. This mayor of Calgary is doing a lot of things that I find disturbing. Not to mention power hungry. What he's doing is, at least from what I hear here, from the rumor is, he controls the press, or he's paying them off, or both. He's using his influence to try to get a champion on talk radio. And I call her a champion. She really isn't, but let's say for the sake of argument, because Danielle Smith does her best to try to represent a neutral position, but anybody who listens to her show will tell you that she is conservative. But I'm neither defending her nor rejecting her. I'm saying that she is in a position in talk radio that's necessary for our time to maintain public sanity, let's say. There's a lot of people that come on her show that vent, that want to express their anger, let's say, at the political climate. But it's much more than that. It's at least a place for free dialogue, as I understand it. Sometimes her producers cut people off the air and whatnot, when they get a little bit too much rowdy. But, what I find very curious, and I did a video previously on it, is that Nenshi is power hungry. Nenshi wants to have full control of, let's say, everything that matters. Media, police, parking control, anything and everything, any channels of influence that he can get. And you see this in his very subtle, but it's like the Black Hand, you know what I mean? Like, he's acting, but you can just hear whispers of it. It's not common knowledge and it's not in public view, and yet every day when you walk through the streets of Calgary, you can witness it. He's done an incredible amount of stuff behind the scenes to corrupt outcomes as he desires. We can talk about this instance, for example, trying to get Danielle Smith fired. She's invited him many times to her show. Danielle Smith has invited Nenshi many times to her show, but he's always declined. I suspect because if he ever comes into the public light, the questioning, let's say, will expose a lot of the things he's trying to keep quiet. And a lot of blatant things that if he ever answered the public, he would really get hammered hard by people who would call in. It would be the greatest show that Danielle Smith could broadcast here in Calgary if Nenshi actually came on and successfully she interviewed him. But of course, in these times, media is restricted on what kind of questions that they can ask. That's why the Rebel gets so much trouble and so many lawsuits. 20 years ago, you'd never see that kind of thing. The Rebel would be able to ask questions with impunity, and they'd be able to demand the answers. But I'm not saying that, in 20 years ago there wasn't restrictions neither. Of course there was, but now there's even more. It's so much. The fact that this poor woman can lose her career over a few words that were taken out of context is to me, is a tragedy. I don't know exactly what she wrote or what she said, or some articles say that she posted on Facebook something to do with white supremacy. I don't really buy it. She stated here in this conversation that the words were taken out of context, and that the sentiment behind what she spoke wasn't actually what the press hanged her for, which has happened so many times in politics. But it matters what party you represent. So if you represent the Liberal Party, for example, you can get away with anything. Let's say it like that. But if you represent the Conservative Party, well, watch out. Even for things that are, what we would consider nonsense, essentially, you can be paying severely for. She talked earlier about the sacrifice that her husband made financially and personally and so on to help her campaign, and all that vanished into thin air after that article was released. My friends, the topic of this report, let's say, is something like the truth cannot be expressed anymore. I was watching a clip the other day of Jordan Peterson saying how communism got its rise to power. And his explanation was, I think, something from Carl Jung. He said something like, communism thrives with people's conscious decision to lie. And the more people are inclined to lie in societies, the more easy it is for it to give rise to that kind of power. He said something like, I forget exactly what the statistic was. It was, I think it was something like, if your family is 6 members, at least 2 of them were inclined to report your activities to the government authority, the communist government authorities. I think it was something like that. So I think it was more than a third, or exactly a third. Anyhow, regimes like that gain ground when people are more and more inclined to lie. Lying's the shadow, if you will, the ability for those people to keep things out of the public view. So, apart from Rebel News, nobody else that I know of even reported something like Nenshi was trying to get Danielle Smith fired. And maybe I'm wrong to try to cling to this statement, but I don't think so. I think rumors like this are very, very powerful, because she was in a place that it's kind of like the dark place that you know of after you've had a great trial in your life, let's say. I'd say losing her UCP candidacy was something like that. And she talked about how she refused press interviews for weeks, and she kind of went underground, so to speak. So here you go, my metaphor. And so this reporter from The Sun put out a tweet that called for Smith, why she was hosting a candidate that was in favor of white supremacy, even though the accusation of white supremacy, I think, it was enough to end her political career. But I think it requires more study to figure out actually what was said and how badly it was taken out of context. Because, as you know, my viewers, many tragedies can happen when something that you talk about, even if it has the right sentiment behind it, can be taken out of context in this time. And that's why the truth is concealed, let's say, and suppressed. And that in therein lies the danger of our time. Why is the truth being suppressed? Why are good Canadians being punished for defending this country and its values? I'm not saying this individual because I need to know more about her. I'm saying Smith. I'm saying Don Cherry. These people, in their own way, are great Canadians because they like to stand up for the truth. No bullshit, no lying, no trying to talk around on both sides of your mouth and try to talk around the truth, embroidering the truth, if you will. These people exist to show us It's a form of bravery, you might say, because I have no doubt that Don Cherry for years has thought about, oh, if I say this, there'll be backlash, and he still said it anyway. You know, people who are unapologetic about it, but speak their mind kind of idea. So the truth as they see it. That kind of thing is being suppressed in our society. That's the underlying theme that I wanted to get at you today. And those people that try to suppress the truth, they're the enemies of our society. They undermine the fabric of what built this country, essentially. That's why Jordan Peterson goes here and there. Well, he used to try to expose the truth, to try to make people understand the psyche of how we value things, among other things as well. Why it's important to defend these kind of things, even though for many people it may seem like a trivial matter. It's not. It is very essential that we speak out against that kind of thing, or that we expose that kind of thing. That's why I love Rebel News. It's like they do what they can. They're not trying to be provocateur as far as I'm concerned. They look for stuff like this. And it's nice that they happen to be there to capture rare gems like these, where the public can glimpse for a moment. I hope you're as interested in this article as I am. To me, the first 8 minutes of this clip was more about how things got out of hand